Thank the member. Recognize the member from Victoria Swan Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I don't know what to say to the member who just spoke opposite, except that he's living in a completely different universe than the one that his government is taking the direction of this province down. This is not about improving access to adult education in British Columbia. This is about cutting investments in people who need adult education in British Columbia and contracting the ability of communities to offer those programs. That's what this budget is about. We have school districts who have delivered education programs for graduated learners in BC for decades. They're already facing in this budget a $55 million cut. So let's leave aside the debate for a moment this morning. In absence of this regressive change that's being made, we would already see a contraction of adult education services by those districts because the $55 million cut, which is supposed to come from administrative savings, is coming from adult education, Mr. Speaker. Now you add on these policy changes, and the situation gets even worse on the ground in real communities around British Columbia. The point I want to make this morning, Mr. Speaker, to the members opposite, and I hope we can persuade them, is that this is a profoundly bad decision. First of all, it's illegitimate. The day that this was announced, December 4th, 2014, was the same day that the Minister of Education signed a memorandum with every school district leader in the province of BC promising this: I will only make policy decisions of significance after I have consulted with elected trustees in every part of British Columbia. The ink was not even dry on his signature before he ignored the document that his government committed to. Illegitimate decision, Mr. Speaker. This is a perplexing decision, to say the least, if I can put it that way, in light of government's flip-flops on adult education and literacy and numeracy in the province of BC. It was only 2008 that the education guarantee that's being torn up now in 2015 was delivered to the people of British Columbia by Jeff Plant, I would note, in his Campus 2020 report. Now, surely this government still has confidence in Jeff Plant. They made him the Chancellor of Emily Carr University just on Friday. So why won't this government stand by sound recommendations that were made on the basis of a comprehensive report that he delivered to this government in 2008? Perplexing, Mr. Speaker. I can't make sense of this decision either in light of a so-called jobs plan that this government claims to have. They're looking at the labor development needs of this province. They're looking at those who are excluded and vulnerable to employment, those with the highest levels of unemployment. Those are people with high school or less training. Not enough in a modern, diversified economy as ours, not enough to meet the skills training needs of different industries that are hoping to take flight in this province, not enough to meet the gaps that we have that are being filled in some cases by temporary foreign workers. Perplexing that they would put a new barrier in to those trying to get the education, to get a job, to support their family. It's perplexing in light of the Macdonald Commission on Trades Training that was delivered to this government recently, which called for more ladders of opportunity in British Columbia, not less. It chided the Industry Training Authority for doing a bad job on recruitment to trades training. And now we have a policy change that will prevent people from getting the prerequisites to getting into a trades and apprenticeship program. It is perplexing in light of the difficulties that we have seen in Surrey recently. And I would read a letter very briefly to the editor of a newspaper in Surrey saying, just as the mayor of Surrey and the premier of the province are trying to figure out what to do about the gang war now being waged in Newton, comes news that effective May 1st, last Friday, Surrey will no longer make high school graduation available to adult immigrants if they've not completed high school education in their country of origin. Perplexing indeed, Mr. Speaker. Now, the government has said, and the member opposite just said, that there are going to be grants available. Nothing's really changing. That's their argument. Wrong. There's 18,000 graduated learners in British Columbia. We don't know how many thousands of those will now be excluded because of new fee barriers being brought into this government. But we do know this, Mr. Speaker. This government apparently, with this policy change, has redefined what it means to be rich in BC and in Metro Vancouver. You're now rich if you make $23,000 and are a single parent raising your kids in Metro Vancouver. And do I need to quote how much rent averages each month and other daily life expenses in one of the most expensive regions? $11.37, 80 cents above minimum wage. You're rich. You don't get a grant. That's the new policy of the BC Liberal government. It's disgraceful. A $230 million tax cut for the richest 2%. $11.37, and you're rich and you can't get into adult basic education. It says it all, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much.